Welcome to Geopolitics on the Map. I am Josh, and for all of my international viewers, Vitayu, Dobra dnia, Здравствуйте, Salimetsizbie. Let's get into the September 22nd updates. Here we go. All right, here on the live UA map, you can see there's been some action going on. The fighting is a little on the more static side. We don't see any huge offensive pushes either way. Let's zoom into a few things. Here's a couple updates. Germany is offering the Russian deserters some sort of amnesty, I suppose. We see some artillery fire that reaches into the occupied territories. And of course, Russia is just lighting up the front line on all of the fronts. It seems to be one of their more successful tactics is just to destroy everything. Then the Ukrainian forces pull back from what becomes defenseless, useless positions, and that allows the Russian forces to advance further. With the Western provided weapons, you have the Ukrainian army is now able to reach further into these occupied territories. You have obviously the population of these areas probably has a stronger sense of Ukrainian identity now. They may not have in the past, and now they're more willing to act as informants for the Ukrainian military, giving them targets, and with the more precise weapons provided by the West, they're able to take out all of these storage depots, logistical hubs, and whatnot. The biggest area that I see progress is going to be made is going to be along the Liman and maybe Lysychansk area, because the Ukrainian army is going to want to cut off this highway right here, another logistical route. That will be forcing the Russian army to pull back from Kremenina, Svatove, all the way back to probably Statobilsk. All right. Let's see what else has been happening. Bridge destroyed in Bakhmut. Missile strike on a Russian base in Yanakiva. I do have actually a funny, unique personal story about Yanakiva. While I lived in Ukraine, I tried to buy a bus ticket from, I think, Debaltseve to Yanakiva, and I continued to mispronounce the name of the city. The bus driver had no idea where I wanted to go. Apparently, it's Yanakiva and not Yanakiva, which is how I was pronouncing it, if I remember right. Eventually, we figured out where I wanted to go, and I was able to get there. All right. Oh, this is probably pretty important right here. Novaya Gazeta further explained what they think is meant in the 7th paragraph of Putin's decree, that the mobilization actually allows for up to 1 million. That's a pretty high number. It's pretty important whether they actually have the resources to well equip this million or even the 300,000. Will they be getting supplies from North Korea? I've seen speculation that they will not. They'll have to really transfer all of the energy of their production into a more of a wartime mode in order to fit all of these new troops. How long are they going to spend training them? I've seen information that they have limited number of training facilities. You think here in the United States we have a handful of bases for basic training. My understanding is that Russia has even fewer, and they have the geographical problem of having a significantly larger country and troops to travel to and from these training hubs. All right, let's take a look at this map, Deep State map. Once again, I think that this is going to be the direction that the Ukrainian army is going to go, and they'll probably push across the Oxo River and try to kind of pincer move this area right here. Now, Russia has a dilemma right now. Are they going to bring troops from the Kherson area? Do they have reserves within Russia to bring down from Belgorod, from Rostov, from Crimea? Do they have it? I don't know. We'll see what Russia decides to do. Or do they just take their losses? How does this affect the referendums of all of these oblasts? We'll have to see. All right, here. This is Putin's war chest right here. We see that from the beginning of the war, right, in February, the initial spikes, right, and now it's come back down to pre-war levels. Hopefully Putin had some reserve funds for this war because it's going to get expensive along with the sanctions and everything. This is probably the most important factor as to whether Russia and Putin can sustain this war much longer, because Ukraine is getting everything from the West. Let's face it. They ask for billions of dollars and they're getting billions of dollars. And what they're going to have to give in return to the West, we'll have to see. I'll talk a little bit about that here in a second with the prisoner swap. Maybe that's part of it. Let's continue on. What's happening after yesterday's announcement of mobilization? You have mass protests. Now, these are mass protests by Russian standards. You have maybe a few tens of thousands of people in each city, in large cities too, right? Moscow and St. Petersburg are massive cities. So to have maybe 10,000 protesters, that's relatively small, I would think. And you have a few thousand arrests. And these could be protesters that have protested before, or maybe who knows what happens. Once you protest once and you're arrested, are you really going to protest again? That seems kind of risky and dangerous, in my opinion. But I'm speaking as an American who has the freedom of speech, the freedom of protest. So I don't know what it would be like to live in Russia and protest. Here we go. This could be right here what Ukraine is kind of giving the West in return. Part of the prisoner swap that just recently took place, there were roughly over 200 prisoners were swapped. A handful of them were foreigners. You have the two more kind of well-known Americans that are a part of this batch. Interesting, though, is that Russia is allowing the Azov battalion, defenders of Mariupol, to be released. My understanding is that, Russia wants to go in and denazify Russia or denazify Ukraine, but now they're kind of they're freeing the not neo-Nazi Azov battalion soldiers. That seems quite contradictory. All right, here's some more from the West. In response to these speeches at the UN, these were already pre-planned, no matter what Putin had to say. However, President Biden did have to make a few changes to his speech to address the mobilization, calling it an escalation, which is interesting. I want to further discuss this idea of an escalation. Russia has been mentioning for the past several months about the West escalating, crossing red lines. If you remember a few years ago, during the Syrian conflict, Obama was famous for creating a red line, and Syria basically walked past it, right, with their attacks on civilians and possible chemical weapons uses. Russia has also more or less put forth red lines, and slowly but surely, the West has strategically stepped across those. We're sending some of the most advanced weapons to Ukraine. We're continually training Ukrainians in their maneuvers and tactics and strategies on the battlefield. I don't understand. We have HIMARS that are killing Russian troops. That is basically war. But Russia will only use speech to kind of point that out. They won't do anything to directly attack NATO or any Western countries. All the while, the United States is basically killing Russian soldiers indirectly. To me, that's war. But for whatever reason, Russia is not gonna go there. Let's kind of go to a different area of the world, right? Because I want to go to Central Asia. I want to address everything that's going on there. Recently, the president of Kazakhstan announced some changes to their presidential election system. They're going to have a snap election coming up here in November. They want to change from 5-year terms to 7-year terms. That'll cut his current term limit down, but he's assuming that he'll go ahead and win with this snap election, and he'll be a part of that next 7 years. All right. Now, this he has quite a bit of public support now. He has some interesting policy changes that he has enacted that seem pretty favorable. 17% minimum wage increase, allocating national funds towards persons below the age of 18 to help pay for tuition and buying homes. Those are going to be pretty popular policies, and I can see him easily getting elected again. As we get closer, we'll go ahead and keep an eye on this to see how free and fair this election is. I also want to mention, it's interesting, Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan have come out publicly saying that their citizens in Russia are not allowed to sign up to fight in Ukraine. There is possible repercussions and legal punishment for that. So, as you can see in my thumbnail, Russia seems to be losing some clout throughout their former sphere of influence, which is interesting. And we go ahead and we're going to take that note and we're going to come over to here. Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, has gone to Armenia to help kind of show support for Armenia. Also, happy Independence Day yesterday to all of my friends and viewers in Armenia. So this is a clear show that America has strength and Russia their influence is weakening. I think the Americans, we see kind of two different horses to bet on, right? Armenia or Azerbaijan. And I think the idea is that it's going to be easier to bring Armenia into our sphere of influence because there might be interest in NATO. They are geographically closer to Georgia, which is closer to a potential ally with the United States. And also there's Ukraine looped into that. And I think with everything going on, kind of the spats between the United States and Turkey, and how Turkey is kind of aligned with Azerbaijan, this seems more like a natural new friendship or relationship that the United States can steal away from Russia. Let's go up to the Baltics, though, real quick before we wrap things up. All right. We know that the Baltic states, the members of NATO, Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia, have closed their border to Russians. You have the Kaliningrad enclave that is separated from the rest of Russia, surrounded by NATO members. And the only way for them to get out is to go through the sea and then to St. Petersburg or someplace in Russia. So now Russians can no longer cross these borders right here. Here we go. Lithuania has put forth their rapid reaction force on high alert to prevent any kind of provocation from Russia, right? Because they share a border with Kaliningrad, the Kaliningrad Oblast. And so this is just an increase in kind of that tension in the entire area. And with the mobilization, you have a lot of Russians trying to get out of the country. And Kaliningrad or Lithuania could be one option for them, but it's no longer an option. Remember, they closed down the border. Some other YouTubers have shown this 35-kilometer line queue trying to get into Finland, which is not a NATO member. But in reality, this has been proven to be false. The situation at Finland's border has not changed with the announcement of Russian mobilization. The video circulating on social media, at least some, have been taken out of context or filmed on different days. So it says the border inspections were only 250 meters long and not the 35 kilometers long. We're still kind of watching on how Finland and Finland and Sweden and how they are going to be accepted into NATO. We're still going to see on that. That's all I have for today. A whole lot. Once again, happy Independence Day to Armenia, and we will see you all later. All right.